Thank you very much for staying with us. Now let's begin with some political developments. The executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukoyede, says lack of transparency, particularly in the oil and gas sector, continues to undermine national development and public trust. This is on a day the Accountant General of the Federation calls for a paradigm shift in Nigeria's public financial management systems. National Assembly correspondent Joke Adisa reports.
The National Conference on Public Accounts and Fiscal Governance, put together by the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly, continues to explore ways of achieving a transparent and accountable financial system for the country. Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, laments what he calls persistent opacity in the nation's financial reporting system, particularly in the oil and gas industry. He says speculative earnings and poor oversight in critical sectors like oil and gas have entrenched inefficiency and corruption in public finance. The Commission has recovered trillions of naira in monetary assets to the National Treasury, including the largest real estate asset recovery of 750 duplexes seized in Abuja.
Public account committees must go beyond annual reviews to an oversight to proactively look at issues that demands proper attention and also take punitive measures against agencies of government that violate extant rules and regulations in terms of public accounting and reporting.
The Accountant General of the Federation, Shamsuddin Ogujimi, wants a paradigm shift in Nigeria's public financial management system from delayed post-mortem audits to proactive, real-time transparency backed by technology and institutional discipline.
The role of PAC cannot be overemphasized. However, oversight must be supported, not undermined. We must ensure timely submission and publication of audited accounts by ministries, departments, and agencies.
For the Auditor General of the Federation, institutionalization of transparency and accountability as national values is key to achieving the needed breakthrough.
This conference is coming at a time when Nigeria, like many nations, is navigating complex economic challenges like rising public debt, revenue shortfall, rising inflation, governance gap, and growing demands for public accountability.
All agencies express optimism that the outcome of the conference will make significant contributions to the nation's push for transparency. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll get straight into our conversation for tonight. Please stay with us.
I'm Miriam Lunge. I'm a passionate environment advocate and a published author.
I am the founder of Celebration, a businesswoman, and a fashion icon.
I am a wealth coach and a real estate developer.
I am Amako Arakwe. I'm a corporate commercial lawyer and an entrepreneur.
Welcome to Warhaka. I am Ramatu Shehu Oyibo, an entrepreneur and a business coach.
I am the voice of an average Muslim woman, an hijabite, and a lawyer.
I am a polymath and a serial entrepreneur.
I am Murayo Afolabi Brown, Managing Director, TVC Entertainment. I'm a media consultant, producer, and broadcaster.
The ladies of your view are made of women from different professions, tribes, cultures, and religion. Join us every Monday to Friday as we share our views on topical and social issues.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's been 2 years since Senator Godswill Akpabio assumed the position of Senate President, steering the affairs of the 10th National Assembly. From legislative priorities to political controversies, his leadership has sparked both commendation and criticism. As Nigerians continue to assess the impact of this Senate on national development, transparency and governance, we'll take a moment to reflect on its performance, the promises made and the path ahead. Today, we unpack the record of the Akpabio-Led Senate, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and what it all means for the future of Nigeria's democracy, all in 30 minutes. Right Honorable SMA was Special Advisor, Media and Publicity, Spokesperson to the President of the Senate joins me tonight. Good evening to you, Honorable SMA. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Rajmoke. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm glad to be here.
And thank you for joining us. So it's been 2 years into your principal's tenure as Senate President. How would you personally describe Senator Godswill Akpabio's leadership style, both in how he manages the Red Chamber and how he positions the Senate within the broader national conversation? What would you identify as the Senate's most significant legislative achievement, and how directly did the Senate President influence this?
Well, Junke, I would like to lay a foundation for all of this. First, central to a responsible governance is the issue of peace and stability. This is the only Senate from the annals of our history, legislative history, that has been so stable, so focused, and very disciplined. Example of this I can tell you. It is difficult as we speak. In fact, partisanship, the issue of politics and governance, has always played beyond elections into the legislature. But in this particular case, it's difficult for you to see partisanship, the issue of APC, PDP, Labour Party. In fact, they are playing governance. In fact, it is the Senate of the Nigerian people, because no consideration of partisanship is put on the table at any given time. So the Senate is very stable and very focused, which is central to whatever achievement they have made, which of course I'm going to highlight. Now, when the Senate started, people took it for granted that it's going to be rubber stamp, and they said a whole lot of things about the present Senate. But when Senator Godswill Akpabio came in, he made mention after his election as the presiding officer of the Senate and the chairman of the National Assembly. He said that he is going to focus first and foremost in recalibrating the Senate and the National Assembly and making it people-centered, and that he's just first among equals. He's going to galvanize his colleagues to be able to provide the needed leadership to elevate and trigger prosperity and growth in the Nigerian nation. And that he has done. First test was that during the time of before now, when once the president nominates ministers and other members of the cabinet, of course, they will say, take a bow. But this particular Senate was able to screen, to go through and screen the background, screen everything, both security, social services, and the standing in the society of those nominations. And of course, 3 of them were declined, and we all know that. And that is history. Then secondly, when there was a coup d'etat, intervention, military interregnum in Niger Republic, and our president, as the chairman of ECOWAS, now sent a message to the official communication with the Senate, to deploy the military to that place. And of course, the Senate went into robust engagement with the executive and came up to advise that diplomacy is very important. And that the advice of the Senate and that collaboration with the Senate became so constructive that today, some of those states of this country that are neighbors to Niger Republic, they were already afraid that it's going to be a flashpoint, and we are having that peace as we speak today. I must say this, most of the things that the legislature is doing, because it's intangible, it's difficult for it to be measured. Unlike the executive, they say, oh, they did 1,000 kilometers of road, you will see it. They did 1 million.
I don't think it's difficult to measure. Yes, I don't think it's difficult to measure because Nigerians are keeping scores.
No.
And for Nigerians keeping score, kindly hold on, sir. For Nigerians keeping score, which specific metric, talking about bills passed, cost saving, anti-corruption measures, oversight and sensitive, best describes or demonstrates 2 years of progress under the Senate?
Okay, that's right. Okay, let me give you a typical example. Before the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy in this country, when there was subsidy in the petroleum products, when there was subsidy, some of us were sleeping in the filling station. Some of us were buying petrol in the black market, 2,000 naira. I am from Eket in Akwa Ibom State. I recall I used to buy petrol, 2,000 naira a liter. You know, the official price, which was said to be subsidized, was about 200 and something naira, or 135 or thereabout. But we were sleeping in the filling station, buying this fuel as much as 2,000, 1,000 and thereabout. Now, during the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy, as it were, the Nigerian Labour Congress engaged the federal government and came up with a lot of issues. There were strikes, there were agitations and all of that. The Senate intervened. What the Senate intervened was to come in between, because they are the representatives of the people and as well as part and parcel of the government. That engagement saw about the issue of the coming together at the middle of the road and to completely deregulate that industry. The Senate decided on its own to even go to Dangote refinery to be able to know what is making it impossible for us to have fuel in this country. If that engagement between the Senate and the Dangote refinery management came about the issue that was a bottleneck between Dangote and NNPC. And that brought about when the presidential directive was that crude should be sold to local refiners, you know, with naira rates. And that today has been able to stabilize that industry. You now have people selling fuel, some 900, some 920, some 930. So the issue of black market and all of that, that is an achievement on that part. Now, I can still tell you, because of that withdrawal of subsidy and the way the Senate, through oversight, were able to engage the industry, there was a revelation in the issue of the management of the NNPC. It was brought to the table, and beyond that,
all right then, Honorable SMA, but because of our time, you know, all these achievements, yet, you know, some Nigerians say the Senate has lost some of its confidence, or rather independence. And I wonder what your response is to those who say or believe this leadership style is too deferential to the executive.
Well, I can tell you a lot of people naturally they all expect that the National Assembly is going to be an activist National Assembly, where there is going to be some level of confrontation with the executive. No, that is not the intention of democracy. By the contemplation of democracy and the issue of the separation of powers, independently, the arms of government were to operate independently, and the Constitution has so empowered each to do its responsibilities. Like in Section 4, Sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, the National Assembly holds the legislative powers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So anything the executive is doing is expected to, you know, pass through the legislature. And what the Senate, the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, are doing is not that issue of confrontation. Take note that the Senate is dominated by very experienced people who are reform-minded, people who have gone around the rat of governance and participated in the empowerment of the people. So the issue of confrontation is not there. What they are doing is constructive engagement.
Right, but
and the outcome of this constructive engagement...
Honorable, there have been whispers of internal dissatisfaction among some senators. What's the cause of these tensions? I remember last year the Senate passed the vote of confidence on Senator Akpabio and the entire leadership of the Red Chamber. March this year, the Senate passed another vote of confidence on the Senate President. And at different times last year, there was this constant report of a purported impeachment plot by unnamed senators. Though reports say nothing senators. Is that something Nigerians should know? Who and who is not or was not happy with the leadership of the Senate? Is there a power struggle or trust deficit within the Senate leadership under Senator Akpabio?
I laid a background here that the important central to the working of the National Assembly is the peace, the prevailing peace. And that in the annals of our history, the current Senate is the most focused, the most stabilized, the most productive because of peace, that there is no partisanship. Recall, there was a time that rumor came up from wherever it came from the pit of the hell, that there is an impeachment plot and all of that. Senator Akpabio's style of administration has uprooted the banana with its peel from the Senate. There's no more banana peel. The proverbial banana peel is no more there. What we have now, recall the other time when Senator Ningi, sorry to mention his name, but a reputable senator, when he was suspended, he came back from that suspension, participated, he became even more active than before. Recall too that when there was that vote of confidence passed on the Senator Akpabio-Led leadership, he was the person who moved the motion because there was all that rumor that northern senators. He was the person who even moved the motion. That is to tell you that from another political party.
All right,
I am trying to let you be aware that Senator Akpabio's leadership is democratic. It is inspired by his willingness to cultivate a system whereby every senator will have that issue of self-worth and is able to participate and bring back confidence to the people of their various constituencies. So there is nothing like that in the Senate. The Senate is stable.
All right, then, what you have told me tonight is that Senator Akpabio enjoys the full confidence of all senators, regardless of party lines. But some Nigerians believe the Senate under Akpabio has prioritized loyalty to the executive over legislative independence. How do you respond to allegations that this Senate is more concerned with optics than actual legislative impact? And I'll give you instances, Honorable Ibo. During national tragedies such as, the mass killings we saw in Plateau and Benue, or some other economic disruptions, what we see most times is the Senate issuing statements or holds symbolic 1-minute silences, but follows up with little meaningful legislative action or pressure on security agencies. The issue of budget padding and constituency projects, there have been renewed concerns as some senators focus on inflating constituency project allocations for personal benefit while publicly presenting these as service delivery. And I must tell you, Honorable, that these projects are often overhyped in the media, but not traceable or impactful on ground. And I'm sure you know this because you've been there. How do you react to all of this?
Well, I am not, in my reactions, I'm not now talking like the spokesperson of the President of the Senate. I'm talking with the full knowledge of a man who understands the gravitas of representation. I have been in the House of Representatives and at that level, so I understand what we are talking about. I can tell you that, number one, the issue of national security is not a dance drama where you display your skill and all of that. It's strategic. So you don't expect when the Senate is engaging the security agencies or engaging the executive, they will come and address a press conference. I can tell you they are more sensitive to the security situation across the country than any other time that we had a legislature. I can tell you that, and you take it to the bank. I can further tell you too that the present Senate is more sensitive and committed to the welfare and the security of the Nigerian people, to the extent that they even go to the extent of going around their various constituencies, engaging and bringing feedback to add value to the various policies and presentation that the executive will present to the Senate. On the issue of the constituency projects, I can tell you, when they talk about padding of the budget, there is nothing like that. The budget it domiciles with the legislature. The legislature have these key responsibilities of appropriation, has a responsibility of legislation, and of course oversight is also involved there. So when the executive will bring the proposal, that is not the budget. It becomes a budget when the legislature have been able to look at it, cross the T's and dot the I's. On the basis of, remember, they are the representative of their people. They will be able to look at the various felt needs of the constituencies and be able to cross the T's and dot the I's. And after doing this, they now send it to the executive. It is when the president have signed, that's when it becomes a budget. Otherwise,
but I wonder why, Senator Ibo, I wonder why this allegation, surfaces every year. But let's move on quickly because of our time.
See, the problem of the legislature is that they perform more than they inform. The level of performances in the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, is higher than the level of the information.
Okay.
They perform more than
what about high-profile probes under the Senate's leadership? I mean, the Senate under Akpabio has launched several high-profile probes. We saw the probe into the oil subsidy investigation and NEDC shoreline contract reviews, which many say ended without any accountability or published findings. How do you respond to claims that these were more about headlines?
I can tell you that it is the misunderstanding of what oversight is all about.
Okay, so let me give you another example. Let me give you another example, Honorable Ibo. NDDC in 2006 was awarded 6.5 billion naira for the construction of a shoreline protective wall designed with a geotube technology in Ayetoro, a seashore community in Ondo State. I'm sure you're very aware of that. That community is currently under heavy sea incursion. In July 2023, the Senate began this move to probe the 6.5 billion shoreline protection contract awarded by NDDC. So what has the Senate found out?
Now, you see, this is how it works. But I appreciate all these apprehensions because of the poor understanding of how the legislature works. We still need to raise a lot of conversations and public education on how the legislature works, So when there is an issue and it comes in the course of the oversight, an issue comes up, and then that issue is put on the table, either through the ad hoc or a formal statutory committee put up, to check those issues. The outcome of it, the Senate or the National Assembly, the legislature, as it were, they don't have the powers to punish. There are three arms of government. They don't have powers to punish. After these investigative hearings, the conclusion and all of that, they will send it to the executive for implementation. Even the executive themselves, they will also have to look at those positions and then cross the T's and dot the I's. It's not a process of overnight.
I'm sure Nigerians are aware of this process. The last question I asked you is, what has the Senate found out?
That's what I am trying to tell you now. In every oversight, in every ad hoc setup or statutory committees, whatever comes out of it, it's not something they will come and address a press conference. No, it's not done that way.
All right.
Because there are three arms of government. There's executive. This thing will be sent to executive, to be able for implementation. The executive will not also pick it up from the legislature and do a press conference. There's processes and procedures which are usually undertaken to be able to address most of these things. So while we are talking, we must also invite our attention to the separation of powers. There are responsibilities, there are obligations given to all the three arms of government. Even when the executive have done that, they find any infraction, they will go to court. The judiciary is another arm of government. The executive cannot punish. If you punish, you are in gross violation of the law. And the same public will come to say that you took this person to court without fair hearing. So we must be able to understand how this is a tripod. When once one of the legs is weakened or one of the legs is dismantled, the table cannot be the same. So what the government is doing, as it were, today is making sure that the three legs, the tripod, is strong enough to carry the table.
All right.
And the best way to do it is to respect the band.
We're almost out of time. Let's quickly talk about Akwa Ibom politics, because I've not heard your personal reaction to Governor Umoena's defection to the APC. Did that surprise you, or was it a matter of when, not if? So what does this also mean for the PDP in Akwa Ibom State? A collapse of its long-standing dominance or just a temporary shake-up?
What has happened in Akwa Ibom State is more or less like a rhapsody. There is no state in this country that has experienced the beauty and the harvest of what has happened in Akwa Ibom. Historically, Akwa Ibom has been this state that when you, from the then southeastern state, when like the Senate president, you always have Lagos front or Abuja front and home front. There have always been this altercation, agitation, fightings and all of that. But today, as I speak to you, you used to hear of Anang, Ibibio, Oron, the tribal issues. But by Omono's defection, that is one. Just the defection is just one leg. The other leg is that the president of the Senate came down from his high horse. He came with an olive branch and gave it to
is this defection
he received it
more about national alignment or personal political survivor? Or does it matter which?
No, it has nothing to do with survival. It has nothing to do with survival. It is a movement. The Akwa Ibom people are progressively moving. They have sown the seed of peace and unity. And it will continue to grow like that. In Akwa Ibom, there is no more tribe. Our tribes may be different, but our tongue is the same. There is no more that.
Sadly, we're out of time, but I'm sure we'll continue this conversation some other time. Right Honorable SMA was Special Advisor, Media and Publicity, spokesperson to the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at 12:30 a.m. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajubo Kedebu using the hashtag Politics.
Welcome to the transformative journey of Gombe State. Like a beautiful bride in the savannah, Gombe State is steadily growing to